So, AEW had a major pay-per-view this weekend, live in London, England, and I'm here to review it. With that being said, my name is Justin Rich, and welcome to Justin Rich Talks AEW All In. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I am pumped and excited to talk about All Elite Wrestling. It's been a minute since we've done a review on All in AEW, and rightfully so. You know how they like to space out their pay-per-views and whatnot. Although Tony Khan has some grand gestures this coming week where he's like, you know what? Normally we do pay-per-views every 2.5, 3 months. Nah, son, I'm about to give you 2 in a week. So we're gonna review the first of said pay-per-views because this past weekend, live in London, England, All Elite decided to go outside, decided to go try their hands out as far as, can we fill up a stadium? Can we actually pack out Wembley Stadium, the famous Wembley Stadium, where they be hosting England soccer games, where we hosting Champions League finals, you know, a lot of big concerts, a lot of big venue, big stuff have happened at Wembley. I mean, most notably, we're talking about WWE ran Wembley, SummerSlam 1992, main event, Bret Hart, British Bulldog for the IC title. So AEW's like, you know what? We've never done a stadium show yet. Technically, Grand Slam counts, but that's Arthur Ashe. That's a smaller stadium. That's a tennis venue and whatnot, but not like a major stadium. Not like where WWE's running WrestleManias and Royal Rumbles and SummerSlams out of like major stadiums. So this is the first time AEW's really done that. And I was proud of them for, you know, if you're really going to take that leap forward going into year 5 of your company and going to see like, yo, are we for real as far as building our brand and building ourselves as the second biggest promotion in North America and in the States? I mean, we got to see if we can actually sell out a stadium. So with that, you get All In live at London, where we had a stack card, you know, 0 hour, you got 11, 12 matches on this card, and we're not even gonna mince words and waste time. So let's just get into it. So if you need a fresh reminder of how we do things on this channel, we go by our 4-point play, which is as follows. We look at the pay-per-view in its totality. I'll give you 3 things that I like from the show. I'll give you 1 thing I didn't like on the show, my overall match recommendation, and my pay-per-view rating on a scale of 5 mics, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. So with that being said, let's get into it. The first thing I liked on this show was Tag Team Turmoil Trilogy. We are talking FTR. We are talking the Young Bucks. We are talking the AEW tag team titles. And we're talking about 2 of the best tag teams in the company going at it in a trilogy match where they have faced each other before twice. So now we're getting the rubber match, you know, Young Bucks 1-1, FTR 1-1 to my recollection. But now you got the tag team titles on the line. Young Bucks being one of the first tag team championships. FTR was going around the world on their scavenging for gold, you know, popping up in New Japan as tag team champions, popping up in other companies as tag team champions. And for a while we were like, yo, when are you actually going to become AEW tag team champions in your own company? And so they did. So now we're getting the rubber match in Wembley, a fitting place to have the blow off to this feud if it ends there. So honestly, I was looking forward to this. This is one of the matches I was looking forward to the most. And unfortunately, going into this pay-per-view, a lot of the smoke that was going in this feud ended up turning into fire by way of Cash Wheeler and all the stuff behind the scenes and outside of wrestling, where kids, don't be pulling guns on people on the road. We're just gonna leave it at that because, you know, open case, we don't know what happened, we don't know what was said, we don't know what was done. You know, it's a lot of speculation until we get like the actual paper like transcripts to show like, yo, this is what happened. But we're gonna keep the focus in the ring. Cash Wheeler did pull up, and FTR came through to defend those AEW Tag Team Championships. And it was such a great match from start to end. Because one thing about these two teams, you're going to get storytelling. You're going to get spot fest. You're going to get, in a Young Bucks match, you know you're getting super kicks at some point. And sometimes it comes to the adventurer. Like, I'm not the biggest Young Bucks fan because of that. Because it feels very formulaic, where they kind of do the same things where, you know, at some point, we're going to get a barrage of super kicks. You know we're going to get a bunch of kickouts. You know they're going to either tease or connect with the Meltzer driver. And Young Bucks matches tend to run long. Whereas FTR, they can freestyle with whoever they're in the ring with. So it's not as formulaic as most people think. Cash Wheeler's impending situation, legal situation, do they actually take the titles off of FTR and put them on the Young Bucks? It wouldn't surprise me if Tony Khan did do something like this. But at the same time, it's like, do we really need the Young Bucks as your tag team champions right now? But then again, with everything going with FTR, it's like, do you want to continue with them as your tag team champions? I personally do, because I am a huge fan of FTR. I have been a fan of FTR since the Revival with Dash and Dawson. Those have been my guys since NXT when they were tearing it out. Those have been my guys since WWE on the main roster. Even when Vince didn't know completely what to do with them on the main roster, those are still my guys. And when they popped up in AEW, I was ecstatic, because I knew that they were going to get pushed like they kind of needed to, and they would have been treated much better, because Tony Khan has a better handling on how to use them versus Vince. Because, you know, Vince has his ways. Going back to this match, it was very hard hitting. You got a lot of kickouts. You got a lot of near falls. There were times where I literally thought the Young Bucks were winning this match. And honestly, I thought the Young Bucks would win this match and take these titles off the FTR, even though I didn't want to see it. You know, deep down, I was like, for the love of God, let FTR retain. But there were times where they got me. They even used FTR's finishing move, the Shatter Machine. But in the end, we get 1, 2, 3, and still AEW World Tag Team Champions, FTR. Again, coming out of the gate, you knew like this was going to go one of two ways, but we were going to get a decisive finish, and we did. And then to have FTR stand up and be like, let's try to shake hands. Let's show sportsmanship. Let's try to be like, yo, you guys put in the valiant effort. Props. Young Bucks weren't trying to have it, you know. Tensions were high, you know, probably they're in their emotions because they're like, fuck, we just took an L. We lost in front of like 80, 90,000 people. I ain't trying to shake your hand right now, but we're going to keep an eye on that. I'm usually not the biggest fan of Young Bucks matches, but this is one that was just fantastic. So that was the first thing I liked on this show. Now, the second thing I liked on this show was Saraya gets her homecoming flowers. Yes, you knew that if we're going to have a pay-per-view live in London, if we're going to try to pack out Wembley Stadium, and if we're going to try to make the women's division something, which has been a lot of things that have been said about this, we're going to get to that later. But you got to have Saraya on this card, especially that you made a big deal when you signed her to All Elite Wrestling. You made a big deal of it when you put her in the Outcast. You've kept her away from the title for a while for a reason. And there's another reason, possibly, why you had her in this. We're going to get to that later as well. But for Saraya to get this match in her home country, in her home city, with her family, not only in attendance, but actually escorting her out to the ring. You have her close friend and stablemate, Toni Storm, trying to regain the gold that she lost weeks ago to Hikaru Shida, Shida walking in as your AEW Women's Champion. And then you have Dr. Britt Baker, D.M.D. Yeah. I had to do it one time. Britt Baker walking in. And honestly, this was kind of like, why is Britt in this match? But then when you hear Toni explain it during the media scrum, where it was like, yo, the first All In, if you go back 4 or 5 years ago, Britt was the first one on that card in that women's match or whatnot. So it's a nice callback to it. Plus at the same time, Britt hadn't been in the title picture in a minute, and Britt hadn't been champion in a while. So you have your current champion Shida, who just won the title August 2nd against Toni Storm in the main event of AEW Dynamite. You have Toni Storm, who's trying to reclaim gold. You have Britt Baker, D.M.D, who is a former champion. And you have Saraya, who was a major signing that has never tasted gold, but then they've been teasing a little something between Saraya and Toni, because now when you put that title in the middle of them, it's like, you know, how bad does Toni want to regain her title? How bad does Saraya want to win this title? And so we get to the match, and it was short, but they packed a lot of punch into this match. It was not a spot wasted. There's times where I thought Shida would retain her title. There was times where I thought Toni would get the title. There's times where I thought Saraya was going to win this title. And then there was one spot where Toni tried to use Saraya's mom and use that to her advantage, as far as like, yo, let's go beat up Britt Baker. Yo, Saraya's mom, hold her. I'm about to punch her. And then Toni goes and hooks off on her, and unfortunately she misses, to where if you look on your top right, Toni Storm cold clocks Saraya's mom, and Saraya's mom just eats the fist. Like, damn. You almost would have thought that she had that coming, but that played into the story and the tension between Paige and Saraya, because it's like, even though we're stablemates and even though you part of my crew, it's like, yo, not only am I trying to win the title, you just hooked off on my mom. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? So then you have Saraya and Toni getting into it, and that's where Britt and Shida were trying to, you know, pick off the scraps and be like, yo, if y'all gonna just fight over each other, then fuck it. We're gonna jump in and try to steal this title away. But in the end, Paige, and I have the bad habit of sometimes calling her Paige, but in the end, you knew Saraya wasn't losing this match. You know that, right? Not when she pulls up with her entire family, with Tony Khan shelling out the money. And is that Queen's music I hear? Yes. And Saraya comes in, special entrance, special music. The entire family pulls up with her, walks her to ringside. And it was like, from there, it was like, oh yeah, you know Saraya's not losing this match. You know that, right? There's no way she's losing this match. But for her to win this title for the first time, do it in front of her country people, in front of her family. And honestly, this is the first time she's held titles since WWE, because you gotta remember, 2018, she retires because of her, I believe it's a neck injury, but she ends up having to retire because of it. And before that, she wasn't champion. So it's been a while since we've seen Saraya holding gold, but in the end, it's like, bro, this is like a 5-6 year circle coming all the way around, where it's like, we didn't even know you're gonna be able to wrestle again. For a long time, we thought that was it. And especially before she announced her retirement at WWE, like, she was gone for a minute before we got to, oh shit, it's WrestleMania 34 week. Oh shit, it's the Raw at the Mania. She's actually retiring. That's not good. But we're here now. She can wrestle. She said in the media scrum she's 100%, even though she had to go through multiple doctors to prove it, but she's 100%. She's good to go. And she's now your new defending women's champion. And there's a couple ways where they can go with this story with her as champion, because now that you've had this big tease that's starting to play out during this match between Saraya and Toni Storm, do the Outcasts stay together, especially since Ruby Soho got involved in this match? Does Shida come back and be like, I know I didn't just lose this title in 3 fucking weeks to someone who hadn't wrestled in years, who hadn't hold gold in like over 5-6 years? Like, absolutely the fuck not. I want a rematch. And if you're Britt Baker, again, it's like, yo, I haven't held this belt in how long? Shit, I want next. Or how do I jump the line so I can get an immediate title match? So there's avenues for them to go with this women's match. And honestly, I want to see it, because now that you have my attention, AEW, you got to keep it. But that's the second thing I liked in the show, was Saraya getting her flowers in front of her home fans. Now, let's get to the third thing I liked on this show, which was stampeding around a Wembley stadium. Yes, once again, we are having a stadium stampede on a major AEW pay-per-view show. And you had Blackpool Combat Club, you had Ortiz, you had the returning Santana, fresh off his torn ACL after whatever that, I forget what the hell they called that, but it was like their own war games that they had, but they have a special name for it, where Santana basically blew his knee out. And to see him come back, you know, y'all too sabe. As a Puerto Rican, I was like, oh my God, Santana's back. Oh my God, Santana and Ortiz are working together. Oh my God, is Santana and Ortiz, are they back together? If Santana and Ortiz can get back together, Deezus and Miedo, you can get back together. And yes, we want you to get the fuck back together. But it felt good to see Santana and Ortiz together again, working in unison. On top of Blackpool Combat Club, that means Moxley, that means Claudio Castagnoli, that means Wheeler Yuta, that means violence. So when you have Orange Cassidy and crew, when you have Penta, El Cielo Miedo, when you have Eddie Kingston pulling up in a Patrick Ewing, Mitchell and Ness 1990s throwback jersey, we knew we were in for violence, because Stadium Stampede is basically a glorified car crash. Anything goes. We were getting shenanigans. But when you have a Blackpool Combat Club and Eddie Kingston in this match, someone's bleeding. Someone gonna get the hurt real bad. So at the end of the day, it was like, all right, we know Moxley's gonna bleed. We know Kingston's gonna bleed. We know some of these other guys are gonna bleed. What's the over-under when people start bleeding? Apparently the over-under was like 3 minutes, because when we get to the 5-minute mark, Moxley's busted open, Trent Beretta's busted open, and there's just chaos and anarchy literally going throughout the stadium. All of a sudden, you see Eddie Kingston and Claudio in another fucking part of the damn stadium. 2 minutes later, all of a sudden they're fighting in the 200 section, up on the top, not on the top level, but the middle tier level, where they probably have like the club seats and whatnot and the suites. They were all the way up there, and all of a sudden you see Wheeler Yuta all the way off somewhere else in another section of this fucking stadium. We're just like, yo, sometimes we forget how huge Wembley Stadium is. They reminded us during this match because they used all parts of it. Now, my favorite part of this match was Penta El Cielo Miedo, because there's a spot where Santana hits him with what, like a spine buster or like some Canadian destroyer, where it looks like, oh man, did he just fuck up Penta's neck? And then Penta just goes, he disappears from ringside area, which is very hard to do when you got like 90,000 people in a big ass stadium watching what's going on and all this carnage. But Penta disappears for a while, for a good portion of this match. And then when he pops back up, he pops that back up with an all new fucking gear, all red, everything, down to the boots and everything. My man was like, you know what? I gotta do a wardrobe change. Y'all keep this busy for about 5, 7, 10 minutes. I gotta go change my outfit. Which I was just like, wait, where the fuck did he go? How the fuck did he disappear? And how the fuck he come? Wait, so your man, while fucking Orange Cassidy's wrapping his hand in tape and then rubbing tape inside glass to go punch John Moxley, when Moxley is trying to use his little chopstick or whatever the fuck it was to go spike Penta, and then Penta puts it on Moxley's head to where he's got the shit sticking out of his head as usual. When they're using forks, when they're using broken glass, when they're using fucking barbed wire baseball bats and just rubbing it into where like Moxley's a bloody mess, Trent Beretta's a bloody mess, fucking Eddie Kingston's a bloody mess. And then we get over to the stage area where all of a sudden, is that Sue's music I hear? Yes, Sue pulls up in the fucking van with some cookie cutter trays, and bro, this was just madness. This was a lot of blood. This was a lot of anarchy in the arena, pun intended. But then we get to the finish. Orange Cassidy has been arguably one of the best things to happen in AEW this year. This title reign that he has going has been incredible. This title reign he has going where basically he's like their IC champion and he's just like their defending champion. And he's put on bangers of matches. Anytime Orange Cassidy's wrestling in a title defense, it's been bangers. The same way Gunther's been putting on bangers as your IC champion WWE. So this has been arguably like one of Orange Cassidy's best year. And honestly, he may be the wrestler of the year for AEW, possibly. But for him to get his moment to close this out and get the victory for Team Orange Cassidy or Team Best Friends, I gotta remember the team name because sometimes it be eluding me, but to get the victory for Team Best Friends and to leave Blackpool Combat Club in a bloody mess. And when I say bloody, bruh, there's a reason why a lot of these photos are in black and white, because I don't want that smoke with YouTube. I don't need YouTube pulling me off because like, yo, why you got all this blood on your damn thing? Well, that's how the match actually went down. And then you see at the end where Eddie Kingston is flicking off Moxley after putting him through a table and after getting the victory to be like, aha, you did all that shit, you did all that bleeding and you still took a loss? Aha, hold that. So that was the third thing I liked on this show, which was this was a glorified car crash. I understand if this is not your jam. I understand if this is not your cup of tea. You don't like the style of wrestling. It's a little too hardcore. It feels too deathmatchy, and especially with Moxley being involved, where it's like Moxley must bleed in AEW, where it gets very repetitive. I understand that, but this was a lot of fun. This is where you just throw logic out the way. You just throw, in-ring storytelling out the way and just enjoy this fucking car crash, this crash test dummies that we have in front of us, and just be like, don't die, don't get seriously hurt, leave in one piece, but thank you. So that's the third thing I liked on this show. Now, let's get to the one thing I did not like on this show. Hey yo, Tony Khan, please come to the front of the congregation. You got some explaining to do. So, there's some things that we gotta address here as far as heading into this pay-per-view. The Cash Wheeler situation caught a lot of people off guard because we didn't know there was a situation like that going on when we were getting ready to go overseas to Wembley. So we're gonna throw a little pass on Tony for that one. But we get one women's match on this entire fucking card. You have 11 official matches on this card. One women's match, and not only do you have one women's match, it's the shortest match on your main card, not including 0 hour. It's like, bro, you have all these talented women on your roster. You have Athena not doing anything, who's been kicking ass in ROH. You have Willow Nightingale not doing anything. Ruby Soho comes in to help out Saraya and Toni in their match, but Ruby, who's had a good year, not doing anything. You have Chris Statlander, who is your TBS champion, not doing anything. You see where I'm going with this, where you have a litany of women's wrestlers not really doing much outside of this one match, and then you make this match the shortest match compared to Kenny Omega and the Golden Elite team versus Bullet Club Gold, got at least 20 minutes. FTR and Young Bucks got at least 20 minutes. Stadium Stampede got at least 20 minutes. Your main event almost went a half hour. So you have multiple matches that go over 20 minutes. Your main event almost goes 30 minutes. Not to mention, MJF and Adam Cole wrestled twice. Not once, they wrestled twice. They wrestled on 0 hour to kick off all these shenanigans. And then they main event later on. Fozzy got a fucking concert on here, but you couldn't find time for a second women's match. And yes, Tony caught shit for this during the media scrum, which is another thing we gotta talk about. Because your man, Tony Khan, was dodging questions like Neo in the Matrix. He's like, I don't want to answer that. I don't want to answer that either. Women's wrestling, get that question out of here. I want to talk about the 89,000 people that just packed out Wembley Stadium for All In. Instead of like, yo, you wanted to promote women's wrestling. You wanted to promote an alternative to WWE when WWE at times weren't being consistent with their women's wrestlers. And giving them time and giving them opportunity and giving them chances. You have a talented roster. One women's match? What the fuck are we doing? And then to top it off, we have the shenanigans that go on once again, because AEW can't go 1 year without shenanigans. CM Punk and Jack Perry get into it backstage. Allegedly, what has been confirmed from what we've seen in the Twitterverse, I'm not calling that shit X. That shit's still Twitter. Your mama called it Twitter. Your daddy called it Twitter. Everyone's been calling Twitter for over a decade. That shit is Twitter. Elon Musk. Suck it. But anyways, enough of that hostility. CM Punk and Jack Perry get into it. So apparently, after Jack Perry's match with Hook, CM Punk and Jack Perry get into it after Jack Perry's match versus Hook over the FTW championship in their FTW rules match, where things were said. Jack Perry let one or two things pop off during the match, and apparently CM Punk felt the way, because before CM Punk opens this pay-per-view with his match with Samoa Joe, before CM Punk comes out to his grand entrance, we get a little kerfuffle backstage to where maybe things were said, maybe hands were thrown, maybe at some point during this pay-per-view, one or two people may have been sent home. Who knows? We're still trying to figure this out, and you know how it is when it comes to wrestling Twitter and journalists, and as far as wrestling media, where you don't know what's kayfabe, you don't know what's real, you don't know if that's actually true or not, you don't know if this is being exaggerated. But once again, we could have a second straight year where AEW has a major show, and unfortunately CM Punk is in the middle of some drama. And this is at least the second time AEW's been in the middle of some drama this year, because if we go back to Revolution, which was a fantastic pay-per-view, however, we left that pay-per-view talking about MJF because MJF eventually threw a drink on a little black boy, and then we find out that the drink was actually liquor. So now it became MJF threw liquor on a little black kid in the middle of this pay-per-view that everyone saw, and then you find out the kid was pissed off because not only did I get a drink thrown on me, but it was fucking liquor, and he probably wasn't in on what was going on, neither was the parents. So it's like, Tony Khan, what the fuck are we doing backstage in your locker room? Do you really have a handle on this? And I don't want to bring up WWE when it comes to the comparisons, but if you're trying to be like WWE or WWE light, you don't hear about these things in WWE. You don't hear about wrestlers actively challenging Vince McMahon. You don't hear about wrestlers fighting backstage on WWE shows, let alone pay-per-views or major pay-per-views. You don't hear about a lot of these kerfuffles going on in WWE because A, it probably doesn't happen. B, they do a very good job keeping it tight-lipped. And C, ain't no one gonna know about this. Like, they have a much better handle because Vince ain't gonna let that shit happen. And Vince's inner circle ain't gonna let that shit happen. Who the fuck is your inner circle, Tony Khan, that's allowing this to happen, that almost we can't go 6 months without an incident? It's almost like we need a sign right here that says 0 days without nonsense in AEW. And every time some shit happens, reset the damn sign. And we're back to 1 day without nonsense, 2 days without nonsense. Like, can we go 1 year without any of these shenanigans or nonsense? That way we can focus on the in-ring, focus on the product, focus on making the product better. Can we get more women's matches than you just finding one on there because maybe you're not the biggest fan of women's wrestling, you don't see it for women's wrestling? I'm only gonna throw one on the card because I gotta throw one on the card, and if so, I'm gonna make that the shortest match on there. Like, we need to do better, Tony Khan, if you really want to see AEW prosper in a way where this is sustainable. Because all this is like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Especially we get to something else that occurred on this pay-per-view, which is that Mercedes Moné's music I hear? Possibly because Mercedes decided to grace us with her presence and pull up to AEW's All In London. Apparently New Japan or AEW, one of the two, flew her out to where she was teasing that she was in London, but you know how Mercedes be, where she be teasing, but you don't know if she's for real or not. And then she actually pulls up. And not only does she pull up, but Tony Khan makes an actual effort. Not once, not twice, 3 times you see Mercedes Moné on camera. Yes, they actually cut to Mercedes Moné, mention her by name, and give her the graphics on more than one occasion during this pay-per-view. At least once during the pre-show 0 hour, at least once, I believe, during the women's match, and again in your co-main event with those trios tag team titles between House of Black and the Acclaim, where they cut to Mercedes. And they make it a valiant effort to be like, yo, Mercedes is here. And not only do they show her on camera, but during the media scrum, when Tony Khan is sitting there with Saraya, your newly crowned AEW Women's Champion, someone in the media scrum actually asked Tony Khan, like, yo, what's the status of Mercedes Moné? We saw that she was there. We saw that you guys cut to her a couple times. Like, is she all elite? Is she pulling up? And Tony, you know, made it clear, yo, she's not clear to wrestle. She's still injured, but we would love to have her down the road. We want her to pull up and take in this show, but, you know, one day we'd like to see her in AEW. Maybe one day you have Mercedes Moné versus Saraya, and Saraya stoke those fires as well. Be like, yo, pull up. You know, you probably taking in the championship match to go see me wrestle, see me win this title. Come pull up. But getting back to Tony Khan, is like, if you expect to sign a Mercedes Moné, which would be your biggest signing since Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole, then you gotta get your shit in order, because why would Mercedes Moné want to come to a company that has a lot of this chaos backstage, on top of the lack of women's wrestling and on top of the lack of women's opportunity in ring, where they're only getting one match, when they're only getting the shortest amount of time compared to Kenny Omega's going to get time, MJF's going to get time, Moxley's going to get time, Young Buck's going to get time, Jericho has to have a match, and so on and so forth, that the women go further down and further down and further down of like your least important people, of like, oh, well, we can't fit you on the card, let's put you on Dynamite in our normal slot where we get like 5-10 minutes before a main event, or we'll have you on Collision, but we're gonna give you a limited time. It's like, nah, you want to pull up a Mercedes Moné, who is an absolute game changer for your company. You gotta not only just shell out the money, not only do you gotta shell out the money, but you also gotta show it as far as like your product, dude. Like, you look at WWE, they're not perfect as far as how they book their women's division, but you had Charlotte and Rhea in the co-main spot on night 1 at WrestleMania, right before the Usos and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. You had 3 women's matches at WrestleMania. You know what I'm saying? It's like WWE has made a vested interest over the last couple of years of like, we're gonna invest in our women. We will let our women main event Raws. We will let our women main event SmackDowns when Roman's not there. And even when Roman was there, because there were times where Sasha Banks closed the show when Roman was there too. Let's not forget that. But you gotta do better. And if you want to attract these main superstars like a Mercedes Moné, like a Trinity, maybe one day Becky Lynch's contract comes up, maybe one day Charlotte Flair's contract comes up, or Asuka's contract comes up, or Bianca Belair's contract comes up, and they want to consider AEW, you gotta show them like, oh, we're gonna give you the platform, the latitude, and we're gonna take women's wrestling serious, like they do in WWE. Come over here. But not just that, but we're gonna stop these shenanigans with CM Punk getting into fights. We're gonna stop these shenanigans of your VPs getting into shit, or Jack Perry getting into shit, or Andrade's getting into some shit, or Sammy Guevara getting into some shit. You see what I'm saying? It's like, Tony Khan, get your house in order. We want to enjoy your product. We like that you're here. We want to see you stay here. We want to see you continue to grow. Get your shit in order. So that's the one thing I didn't like on the show, because honestly, it's just like, bro, we can't have one really good pay-per-view before like we get to the media scrum and it's like, well, this happened and that happened and this happened and that happened. Figure that out. to our match recommendation on this show, which was MJF versus Adam Cole, baby, in the main event of All In. Your workhorses end up wrestling twice in one night. They open the show and win the ROH World Tag Team Championships against Aussie Open, who have been very good champions and have had a very good showing this year as a tag team. But MJF and Adam Cole, they're the hottest thing in AEW right now, man. They're the duo I didn't know I needed as a tag team until I saw them as a tag team. And I was just like, I don't want to see them break up. I love everything about this story. You know, MJF reluctantly coming around to, yo, Adam Cole's a nice ass dude. He's a sweetheart. No one says anything really negative about Adam Cole. He's a great dude to have as a friend. And Adam Cole's bringing out another side of MJF that's like, yeah, maybe he's not you're an asshole and a dick, but you ain't gotta be that 24/7, 365. You ain't gotta wake up and piss like assholeness. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can tone it down and be like, yo, find things that make you happy. Find things that don't make you stressed. You ain't always gotta cheat to win. And you're seeing another side of MJF that's like, I didn't know existed. To where, like, I feel like MJF's doing his best work right now. Adam Cole's doing his best work since NXT. And it's just clicking so well. That's like, when I tune into AEW, I'm here for MJF, Adam Cole, everything. Their segments, their matches, them dancing together, them teasing. Will they, won't they? Will they turn each other? And it's like, I know where this is heading. And eventually we're going to get the breakup. And it's going to be just MJF on one side, Adam Cole on another side, and no more friendship. And it's going to suck. But to see this story unfold in a main event, and honestly, you had the first match playing to the second match where they really are friends. And they're like, you know, title's on the line. I'm going to give my best. You're going to give your best. I'm going to not hold anything back, but at the same time, I don't want to cheat to win. MJF, like, I don't want to put you in a hospital, but at the same time, like, I want to retain my title at all costs. So we get to this match, and it's just like the in-ring storytelling, the in-ring psychology, the spots. Oh my goodness, from start to end, it was just like, for a match that went 29 minutes, this felt shorter. This felt like this only went like 10, 15 minutes. And it's just like, this is one of those, is like, I didn't want this to end. This was a fantastic main event to where, in the end, MJF able to roll Adam Cole up 1, 2, 3, and still AEW World Champion. But like, the photos tell a better story of just like, you could tell like how much this meant to both of them. Even when Adam Cole was despondent and was just like, fuck, I took the L. God damn. And just like, yo, I barely won. I survived you. You kicked my ass left and right. And you kicked my ass. And like, I just was happy to just win. But you saw how much it meant to both guys to be like, yo, I want to be AEW World Champion. MJF's got the title. That's my boy, though. But you can tell Adam Cole's like, shit, what would it look like if I was AEW World Champion? I know Roderick Strong had to involve his musty, hurt ass into this to where it's like, Roderick Strong looked like, yo, like a desperate housewife trying to be out there, be like, see, Adam, see, I told you MJF ain't shit. Look, he was trying to pull the ring out of his nutsack. By the way, MJF, where do you be putting that ring? Because, bro, to keep that in your tights the entire time and not have it pop out early, bro, where the hell you be hiding that? Because that's just, and on top of that, like, yo, nasty and musty and smelly, just like, this was next to my wee-wee, but I'm gonna put this on my pinky. Anyways, I know that was on a tangent, but but at the end of the day, it's like, ignore the Roderick Strong stuff because it's leading to something. But I love everything about MJF and Adam Cole and this pairing. This match just delivered. It was the goods from start to end. I can't recommend this one highly enough if you like just storytelling, two friends going at it over a title. There's a reluctant friendship because MJF didn't want to be friends with anyone. Adam Cole is just friends with everybody. Adam Cole brings the best out of MJF, and MJF reluctantly accepts it. And you can tell like MJF was hurt when like Adam Cole was resulting to dastardly tactics in order to win, because Adam Cole's like, yo, if I hook it by crook, I want to win this title. And you can tell MJF felt a little hurt about that, but man, what a match. And then to watch the main event, and it's just the evolution of where they came from. You know, MJF was someone that worked his way up from the ranks in AEW. This is someone that dropped his own pipe bomb and left the company for a minute before he popped back up with that Tony Khan voicemail and reappearing and coming after that AEW World Championship and becoming your champ. You know, Adam Cole, someone that was the guy in NXT, had a chance to go to the main roster but decided to go to AEW because he wanted to be with his girlfriend, he wanted to be with his other friends, and he wanted to stream. And he's a great streamer at that. And you can't fault him for that, but it was like, can you see Adam Cole ever main eventing a WrestleMania or a main WWE show? Well, we kind of got the answer because he just main evented AEW All In, and that fucking crowd was just as electric for Adam Cole as they were for MJF. London, you did a very good job bringing that energy all night, but that main event, man, that's my match recommendation. So let's get to how we rate this bad boy. And it goes like this. So how we rate things on this show is we have the mic scale, and it goes as follows. If I give a show 5 mics, that means this show was fantastic from start to end. This meant that I couldn't find not one thing wrong on this show. Definitely make some time. It's a must watch. Go pull it up immediately. If I give a show 4 mics, that means the show was very good. Maybe 1 or 2 things that didn't really hit for me, but overall a very good show. Carve out some time when you got it. Go check out the match recommendation. If I give a show 3 mics, that means this show was solid. It has some good, it has some bad, it has some meh. If you have some time, go watch. But it's not one of those that's like drop everything and watch this immediately. If I give a show 2 mics, that means this show needed some work. It needed to stay in the oven and cook a little more. Maybe 1 or 2 things that I would like to highlight, but the rest of it's kind of like missable and skippable for the most part. And if I give a show 1 mic, that means this show was trash. Basura. Get this shit out of here. I struggled to find one good thing on this show. It was a chore to watch. It was a pain to watch. Ugh. So, I sat down and watched AEW All In live from London, England. Your main event, MJF versus Adam Cole. Your co-main event, the House of Black versus the Acclaimed. Women's Fatal 4-Way. Saraya versus Dr. Britt Baker, D.M.D. versus Toni Storm versus Hikaru Shida. 11 matches on the stacked card. On a scale of 1 to 5, I gave this show 5 mics because from start to end, this card was just fantastic. It didn't let up. It was perfectly paced to where there wasn't any downtime in between matches once we got to the main card. Maybe you get a video package in between certain matches. Even then, the video package was like 60 to 90 seconds max, and then boom, we were rocking and rolling into the next match, and we were just flowing all night to where that 4 hours flew by quick. You look up, all of a sudden we're on the main event. It was like, all right, cool, this match is over. Clean up the ring, next match. Okay, this match is over. Video package right quick, next match. And we were just rocking and rolling, moving. And a lot of my nitpicks on this show were very just nitpicky, except for like Tony Khan stuff, which is like outside of this pay-per-view. And I know we criticized the length of the women's match, but I want to leave the focus on the greatness that those 4 women put into that match. And Saraya's moment winning that title in front of her family getting involved. and all 4 women working their ass off, you know, we can criticize Tony Khan another day. And that's something that wrestling Twitter loves to do, is hold Tony Khan's feet to the fire and give him shit and give him hell over everything that he's doing wrong. But this is one where we weren't sure if AEW can sell out Wembley. They did. We weren't sure if they could pull off a great card for All In because they took forever and a day to fucking put the card together. They did. We weren't sure if some of these matches would really hit because, you know, at some point, some of these matches are going to lose time or what's going to get rushed. And it's like, it felt like everything flowed well. Everything got the time it needed. The women could have easily got an additional 5 minutes, but I feel like they were able to get their shit in. And it could lead to more matches down the road. FTR, Young Bucks were the goods. We didn't talk about the Acclaimed and House of Black. That was a solid match. We didn't talk about the coffin match with Darby Allin, Old Ass Sting, Swerve, and Christian, which was solid. We didn't talk about CM Punk and Samoa Joe opening the show in a very good match. Very good showing for both guys. I know they're a little long in the tooth. Samoa Joe's had his issues. CM Punk's had his issues. But this was also a great opener, a hot opener. That crowd was into it. Samoa Joe got his shit in. CM Punk got his shit in. And it was one of those just like, yo, this surprisingly, it was very good. And I was like, they had multiple ways they could have opened the show. CM Punk going on first. Great decision, especially given what happened backstage and all that shit. Just figure out the backstage shit. Because one thing AEW does is when they get it together, as far as these pay-per-views, when they hit, they really hit. I felt like this really hit in a way that it hadn't hit since Revolution. Revolution is another one that was from start to end fantastic. That's one that I will definitely give 5 mics. I feel like All In for the most part was like on the same level as Revolution, where it was just like a great watch. Again, for 4+ hours, it goes by quick. And then that main event just delivers in spades to where it's like, it ends on a high note. It ends on a great note to where I want to see more stadium shows out of AEW. I know they announced All In at Wembley next year. Maybe we can pull up for that one. I know we'll speak that to existence, but yo, AEW, this was a great show. I'll give this 5 mics. I'm proud of you. Just stop with the shenanigans. Tony Khan, get your house in order. Figure out the women's division, and we can move from there. Now let's close this show out. So you can find me on all social media platforms at It's JustinRitch. You can find me Wednesday nights on Twitch live from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Those Wrestling Girls Twitch channel for TWG Fan Club with myself, Queen PR, Brian H. Waters, and Ciendo B. This week, we actually showed love to AEW some more for AEW Appreciation Night, where we gave AEW its flowers going into year 5 of the company and highlighted a lot of good things AEW's done in these last 4 years. You can also find me Twitter Spaces Tuesday night around 6:35 p.m. for Turnbuckle Talk with me and Corey, where we talk all things wrestling. You can catch me from time to time on True Heat Sports and True Heat Wrestling. Both of those channels are located on YouTube, where we talk sports, wrestling, and all that fun stuff. Your boy was on the live stream with the True Heat family for AEW All In, where we watched this pay-per-view all together as a family from start to end. And if you enjoyed this review, like, subscribe, share, and go pull up all the other reviews that are located on this channel. We here, we outside, we active. Salute to MJF, salute to Adam Cole, salute to Saraya, your new AEW Women's Champion, and salute to AEW for putting on a fantastic show. And on that note, we out. Peace.